Welcome back to Sherelle's Healing Conversations. And we are back tonight with another episode, you guys. And tonight's episode is Healing After Someone Didn't Show Up for You. I think one of the quietest heartbreaks is when someone you counted on simply wasn't there. I think we've all been there in our lives where we counted on someone to be present for us and they just didn't show up for us in any way that we thought they would. I remember last year in 2025, I went through a lot of issues and a lot of things happened in my life that kind of turned my world upside down. I remember a lot of people who I thought would be there for me particularly weren't there for me, and it was very, very hurtful. I had gotten my heart broken really bad last year. And of course, when you're hurt, you naturally want the person who broke you to fix it, but the person who broke me couldn't fix my broken heart. And I remember being so upset with everyone because I felt like no one was there for me when I was going through one of my darkest moments. Um, but I really think it does start with naming the hurt. You have to pretty much name where the hurt came from. For me, it was with my ex. He had broken my heart. And so the hurt came from my heart being broken. The hurt came from our breakup. The hurt came from him moving on 2 months after we had broken up. And that was the hurt that I had to name that had broken me down so bad. I was so disappointed in him because it was like, wait a minute, I'm healing. I'm in the thick of healing. We just broke up. You just moved out. And now I'm disappointed in you because you moved on so quick as if I never meant anything to you. And I had to get to that point because a lot of times when we get betrayed, we do get hurt. We get very hurt. We get very sad. We feel very empty inside because we're like, how could this person disappoint me and do this to me? How could this person do these things to me, knowing that I was counting on them, knowing how I felt, knowing what they were doing was going to hurt me, and they don't even care. And then, of course, you go through betrayal because that betrayal is so horrible. It's almost like you trusted someone and they just betrayed you. So when I found out my ex had moved on 2 months after the breakup, I felt so betrayed by him. I felt so like, how could you do this to me? Of all people, you would do this to me? Because I never forget that day when I said to him, I'm healing. How could you do this to me in the thick of healing? It's only been 2 months. And I felt so betrayed. And you also have to deal with the confusion of it all because you're so confused and you're trying to figure out all these answers as to why they did this to you and why would they hurt you and why would they do this to me? And oh my God, you did this to me. And the disappointment sits on you because of, again, like I said, when someone hurts you, it breaks you because you expect that person to show up. And I think what broke me the most was that me and my ex were still friends after that breakup. We were still cordial. We were still talking. We were still hanging out. So for me, it was more so like, wait a minute. We did all this hanging out. We did all these conversations and checking on each other only for you to do what you did to me. Like, this is insane. And I was super confused. I'm thinking of all these scenarios, and that's just what you do. And then you have to look at why it hurts so much. For me, it was I expected more from my ex. This was someone who I lived with, who I had a life with. We had our lives planned out. We were engaged. And to me, it was like, I expected so much from you and you broke me. I expected so much from you and you just did not care about me at all. You just said the heck with me and you threw me to the wayside as if I was nobody to you. Because I was expecting so much out of this person and they didn't give me things that I was expecting from them. I think that's the biggest thing that we lie to ourselves about. We expect so much out of people sometimes, and then when they hurt us, we don't know which direction to go into because we're just like, wait a minute, you weren't supposed to hurt me. And that's why I've learned, especially in 2026, never go into something with so many expectations. Just go with the flow because when you have all these expectations, 9 out of 10, you may end up getting hurt because you expected so much out of somebody and they can't give you what you expected. And betrayal could not just come from relationships, it can come from friendships, from family members, from coworkers, from whoever. Betrayal and heartbreak and healing, it can come from so many different things. And of course, that attachment you have. I had such a big attachment to my ex. So much of an attachment. When I was going through things after the breakup, I'm like, wait a minute. He normally would be here for me through this. He normally would talk to me. He normally would give me advice. He normally would do this and that for me. He normally would be this and that. And I was expecting him to show up. And so when he didn't, it was like, this was devastating. He's not showing up for me. He's not being present for me. Where is he? Because again, we were still good friends after the breakup. So I'm thinking everything's cool. And so we get attached to that person. That attachment that kind of weighs and sits on you because you're so attached to that person. And like I said, it happens. And you have that emotional investment that you've put into them. I had invested so much into my ex. We had gotten a place together. I had left my family home to be with him. Um, I had put so much into what we were building. You know, we had our own little mini family. We had a dog. He had his kid. He had two kids, and I had my daughter. And it was like this big family dynamic. And so it was this all these emotions and everything that I had invested into this. And it's like, wait a minute, this hurts. So you have to figure out, why does it hurt so much? Break that down, and what healing actually looks like. You have to allow yourself to feel the hurt. That's one thing that I had to learn through my healing journey. When my ex hurt me, I had to allow myself to cry every day. I went through spells of not eating. I had to feel every single emotion. And believe me, I wanted to run. It's like you want to jump out of your skin because you don't want to feel anything. But I had to feel every single emotion. And it wasn't even just about my ex and the breakup. I was healing in general from other things in my life that I had to sit with, and I had to allow myself to be hurt. And you have to sit in those emotions. So I was like, yes, he hurt me. He did this. He did whatever he did to me, but I got to heal from that. Yes, he didn't show up for me. I thought we were friends, thought we were cool. He didn't show up. Okay, now what? Now I got to move on. And so I think the first step is you do have to feel it. Unfortunately, like my therapist always says to me, Sherelle, you got to sit in that pain. You don't want to sit in it. You got to sit in it. You know, you got to feel it. She's like, you can't squirm out of it, journal it, do what you got to do, but you can't get out that seat, and you got to feel those emotions. And unfortunately, it is going to hurt, but you can't escape healing. When you're trying to heal, you got to feel the pain, unfortunately. And then you have to release the fantasy of who they should have been. I had to release that fantasy. I'm like, the person who I thought my ex was, he was not that person. I had to release that fantasy. And so a lot of times we have this fantasy of who we think a person is, and that's just not who they are, unfortunately. We have this vision of a version of who we want somebody to be, and they're not that person. And the whole time we're dating them, we're envisioning this version of who we think or who we want them to be, but that's not who they are. It's kind of like a halo of an angel. Every time you might really be into a guy, he may not be the perfect guy, but for you, because you see this perfect version of him in your mind. So every time he comes to a room, you see this bright light around him. When really, there's no bright light that should be there, because he's really not the person that you think he is. But in your mind, you've made this up. And I think that's what it comes from when we settle. When you settle, you take pretty much anything because you don't want to be alone. You need something there. But when you let go of that fantasy and you realize, hey, this person's not who I thought they were, you can kind of see more clearer and realize, things that you could have done differently. And you do have to learn to rebuild trust with yourself, because that trust with yourself was also broken, not only within that person that hurt you, but the trust within you is broken now. You have to rebuild it within you and say, okay, Sherelle, I'm going to trust me now. I'm going to trust what is happening with me. I'm going to trust that no matter what I go through, God is going to see me through it. I'm going to trust myself. I'm going to rebuild myself and be the best version of me that I can be, that God wants me to be. And that's really all you can do, is rebuild it. And then you have to reframe that experience. Say to yourself, their absence wasn't a reflection of your worth. They weren't there for you, but does it really affect you? One thing I've learned is that your value is not through other people, it's through you. That's something that my healing has kind of taught me. A lot of the reason I was so sad when my ex left was because I needed his validation, because I didn't love myself. And so I felt like when he left, that was my validation was gone. There was nobody to say, Sherelle, you're pretty. Sherelle, you're good enough. Sherelle, you look nice today. Sherelle, I'm going to take you out on a date today. Sherelle, you're this, you're that. I needed to hear that to feel good about myself. And so ultimately, when he was no longer there to do those things for me, I felt like, who am I without him? That's how I felt. But someone leaving your life does not change your worth. It doesn't change who you are. You are still somebody without that person. And then you have to look at it as sometimes people can't give what they've never received. Some people have never been loved truly correctly, so they can't give you what they've never had. Some people have never they've been raised in a house where they didn't get hugs or kisses, or they didn't get love or affection, so they can't give that to you because they don't know how. And some people are broken, unfortunately. And when you're broken, you can't give somebody something because you're not whole. And that's how I was in most of my relationships. I was broken. So a lot of times I was expecting the people I was dating to give me something, but I couldn't even give it to them because I was not healed. And so we learned that about ourselves. So I want you guys to take away from today's episode by saying, where can you show up for yourself today in a way someone else didn't? Think about that as you go through your day, as you go through your night. Think about where you can show up for yourself today in a way someone else didn't show up for you. Like, for example, your friend might have said she was going to come meet you for lunch and she didn't show up. Okay, what can you do? Now you can take yourself to lunch. Now you can go shopping by yourself, right? You don't need that friend to go shopping with you. Um, your boyfriend stood you up for a date. Now what can you do? Okay, you can still maybe go meet up with some girlfriends, go hang with your family members, go do something for yourself, go to the spa, get your nails done. So we have to learn to show up for ourselves. That is the important part. Show up for you even when somebody doesn't show up for you in the way that they're supposed to. And thank you guys for tuning in. Again, this is Sherelle's Healing Conversations, and I'll be back for more episodes soon. Look out for more content. And as always, enjoy your night.